Well, welcome everybody. We are very excited to have two fantastic presenters today, Nick Hanson and Dee LeBlanc, and they are going to be presenting on a general overview and look into the process of work-based learning. Take it over.
And before we start, Billy, to answer your question, yes, you are the one and only person that signed up for this webinar. So here we go. Anyway, so today what we're going to talk about, we are going to do a general overview and look into the process of what work-based learning entails. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dee.
So to start was why work-based learning. So why do we have this program in high school? What does it do? One thing for me is that's really interesting about work-based learning is that it is not a standalone program. For a successful work-based learning program to exist, there needs to be a buy-in from the community, from the school, from the parents, and from the students. Because each of these groups benefits in one way or another from work-based learning, which makes it really interesting opposed to some classes where, you know, they focus really on just the students and what happens in the classroom. And work-based learning truly cannot exist if the community especially and the employers don't buy into the program. So we're going to beginning to talk a little bit about what are some of those benefits for those different groups.
So the benefits to the parents and the guardians is work-based learning provides an opportunity for parents to collaborate and partner with others and that assists their son or daughter in making that informed career choice, so they get to be a part of that.
Some benefits to the students. Ultimately, work-based learning is really about the student, and it's about the student to improve their academic achievement, to explore their career options, to develop workplace competencies. Some of those competencies that are really important are, for example, employers are really looking for, there's something called the 4 C's, which are communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. And work-based learning can help students work on that. Some other things that some workplace competencies that will transfer to other jobs are reliability, flexibility, and productivity or quality of work. And that's something that can benefit students from work-based learning. The final thing is the expand opportunities. Another way of looking at it is networking, because 66 to 85% of all jobs are found through personal connections. So work-based learning can help students get out of the classroom and start building a network so that they have some connections as they are growing into adulthood and moving on in their careers.
Okay, so the benefits to the schools. Work-based learning provides many benefits to the school. It helps, with the students improve their academic achievement. They have gained access to those workplace techniques and some of that technology. We kind of get to become more aware of the current trends because they have that exposure. We have kids exposed into the different work sites. We can improve student motivation, which the end result is going to be, higher attendance and higher graduation rates. And another thing is for students, their education becomes more relevant and viable. It has meaning, it has purpose. And then a really important one I feel is that you get to deepen that relationship with the community, that school and community relationship. So it's all very important. And even though it does require a little bit of, legwork and more work initially to kind of set this up, the outcome is very rewarding.
True. There's also benefits to the community. As I stated earlier, that work-based learning cannot really exist without the buy-in from the community. It adds valuable productive resource of an improved workforce to the community. It produces citizens who are more responsible and contributing members of society, and enables individuals to build self-confidence and independence. And also, especially with our aspects of work-based learning, where we're working with kids in special education and with students with varying levels of disabilities. Overall, though, it's really good business for employers to have people with disabilities working there. It can improve the morale at a business place. It also can even encourage other people with disabilities to shop there, because it's a good place, because they're making accommodations, they're making room for people with disabilities to have a place to work, because regardless of your disability, everybody wants to be a valuable asset to their community, and a natural way that we do that is through our work.
So continuing on for benefits to employers, to kind of branching off a little bit of what Nick had already said, employees who are better prepared and they understand the workplace expectations for those employees that have participated in the program, with employers partnering with us, it also helps them to reduce that recruitment and the training costs, because they have a vital role and a say in how we are preparing our future employees. It also helps improve the morale, like Nick had said, and it's a great positive PR for them. And then they also get to kind of support, and they're supporting those local schools. It's a win-win, I think, all across the board.
Yeah. So, what is work-based learning? Work-based learning ultimately refers to the continuum of activities that happen within and outside of the classroom. It provides a way for the students to connect what's happening in the classroom with the world of work. It allows them the opportunity to learn about their careers and education that are needed to reach those career goals in their life. It also helps connect how someone is wired with different career opportunities, because as we've probably all known, we've done jobs that don't fit us very well, and it doesn't give us a lot of satisfaction in life. So if we can start teaching students helping them understand who they are and how that fits with careers, they're going to have a successful and an enjoyable life. So that, in one way, is really what work-based learning is about. It just is trying to get students to learn about who they are and what work is and what different options are there out there for them.
So work-based learning is not just your paid work experience or your unpaid work experience. It involves a lot of other activities. And, it can include job shadowing, worksite field trips. The internships are a possibility, but they do require, more work. Youth apprenticeships, if possible or available, and of course that career mentoring piece, the career exploration, so it's not just limited to the paid and unpaid work experience portion.
A quality work-based learning experience should be thought through, and it should identify different learning objectives based off what the student needs to be working on, because we all have different strengths and different weaknesses, and so we want to be able to identify that and help the student grow in that area of need. It should also be developmentally appropriate. Because of the continuum of students that we're working with, not every job is going to be a good fit, and so we want to be able to put students in a position where they're going to succeed. The orientation is a part that's really important. That really all the parties that are involved understand what we're trying to do. That ultimately education is the focus on the students learning about the different jobs and what they're doing. And then it should link to the student's next work-based learning experience. Really trying to learn those skills those soft skills that are transferable to every job, no matter what you do, whether it's working at a gas station, whether you are the CEO of a company. There are soft skills that are transferable to every experience that you're part of. And then finally, that part of linking the classroom with the professional expectations, to learn that reliability, to learn that dependability, to learn that quality, that even if you don't feel up to it, still trying to bring the best that you have and not mailing it in because you just, don't want to be here. And so we really want students to experience the good and the bad of those expectations.
Mm-hmm. So our mission statement and vision statement for the work-based learning program with the Northern Lights Special Education Cooperative is, our mission is to prepare students with disabilities for that world of work. We're going to do that by partnering with those local businesses and try to provide those job shadowing experiences, non-paid and paid experiences, and some of those worksite trips. Our vision is to bridge that classroom with the world of work. So what they're learning in the classroom, those soft skills and some of the skills that they're learning in the classroom, and be able to transfer that into the world of work. So that's kind of like what our focus is.
Yeah. And before we go forward, Billy, if you have any questions, anything comes up and you want to make a statement or ask us a question, please type into that chat and then we can absolutely address something that we might have said or you want more clarification. So a couple things to remember is that work-based learning does not occur in isolation from the rest of the school or district curriculum, that these activities should be integrated and part of the student learning and aligned with the overall curriculum. And that this means that work-based learning requires collaboration with the different teachers, with the administration, with the the career and technical educator. Like if a student is working in sort of like maybe an automotive program, with the special education case managers, the parents, and the employers. Like all of that, those pieces need to be collaborating and communicating about what's happening. The work-based learning coordinator needs to be also familiar with what's being taught, and especially with the way that our program is set up, because we're working with different school districts, and each school district runs their high school and their curriculum different, and so we need to understand what's being taught, and so that we can help facilitate and embellish what's happening and add to it, and maybe not necessarily repeat something that's already being talked about. So trying to find out what's happening with the school and align our work experience programs with what's already happening within the schools.
So the school-based instruction portion, you might hear it referred to as a seminar. That's a common name for it. It might also be called, the work-based learning seminar, the cooperative work experience seminar, but this is a requirement. And so it's an opportunity for not only for students to to talk about and learn about their careers and learn the skills, talk about employee roles, responsibilities, but it's also that opportunity for them to talk about their experience on the job site, or if they were at a job shadow, but gives them that opportunity to talk with their classmates about it and to talk with their coordinator, and so they can kind of get, if they're ideas to brainstorm too, like this is where I'm really strong in, but this is where I need to work on. So it's just a great place for the students to have that time to share and collaborate. And then the next one is, these are the different topics, and there's a wide variety of topics, and it kind of all depends on, the number of topics, and the depth of each topic is going to be determined by, how many sessions you're going to be having. The main ones is that's a requirement that we have to do annually is your employee rights and responsibilities, or which we call the child labor laws, and also then the safety. I think other ones that are really important that I think should be included are, meeting that employer expectations. You're talking about the work ethics and behaviors. and also kind of like succeeding in the workplace, communication. They're all very important ones. Now the next slide will have a few more, interpersonal relationships and teamwork. The portfolio, and even talking about those college options. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of these are okay to, well, like with the safety, we have to be doing it every year, and especially even with some of the career planning and aptitude and personal interests can be done every year, because there's a lot of change that happens from 9th grade to 12th grade, so really helping the students continue to look at who they are and where they're heading with life.
Defining that career path.
Yeah, defining that career path. So, as we said, one of the ones that we have to do every year is the safety training. This includes the basic first aid, different safety rules, health and safety hazards, kind of being able to identify within different jobs there's going to be different requirements and safety needs. The difference between working, like for example, at a gas station to working in a kitchen is there's going to be different safety hazards. But being cognizant and being aware of what's happening around you and what is the difference between safe and unsafe, so that students are being safe and they're not getting injured. Because the fact is injuries on the job do happen, and they happen more to young students than they do to adults. And some of those injuries can have life-altering injuries can happen to those students, and so we want to make sure that they know where if they do get hurt, like, what do you do? Because I think for a lot of students, if they make a mistake and they get hurt, there's going to be the desire to hide and not admit what happened, because maybe they weren't doing the right thing. But you want to encourage them to follow the safety protocol and follow the procedure at that job if something like that happens.
Mm-hmm. So in following, talking about safety, we have to talk a little bit about the liability and insurance, because it's all about protecting and making sure that our students are safe. And liability is a familiar term in education and in business. We carry insurance to protect our students they serve, their employers, visitors who are at the school site. Business carry insurance to protect their employees, and the business and those who temporarily might enter their site, whether it be to a store to purchase something or to speak with another representative, drop off product, whatever. So liability insurance, it's there to protect everyone.
Yeah. So the criteria for work-based learning. So the reason why we wanted to have a criteria is so that we have a quality program that is meeting different goals and having an expectation. Because sometimes if there isn't a criteria, that the work-based learning can be the dumping ground for students that we don't know what to do with. Like, so-and-so isn't showing up, or there's different behaviors coming up, so let's get this kid a job, and not to say that can't be a good thing, but we want to have a criteria and expectation so that we're holding students to a standard and having an expectation on why we're doing this.
All right, so the following we're going to talk about is just the minimum standards for consideration when you're developing your work-based learning program. Your minimum age of your student, what is that going to be? What grade? We typically have ours 9th to 12th grade. What minimum school, what's the minimum school attendance percentage do they have to be in school in order for them to be considered for the program? A student must continue to successfully complete that regular ed coursework that's going to help lead them towards graduation. Do they demonstrate the regard for school policy and community laws? They have to be able to do that, especially if you're going to be going on to a work site. Those things they have to be able to demonstrate. Have them complete those vocation, interest, and ability inventories. They're very important. They give us great information. And like Nick said before, they do change from year to year. Next slide, please. And then, are the parents and guardians, they have to be willing to sign that individual training agreement and be able to support that student's involvement, saying, yes, we agree to what's, mapped out for us, what's there. The student has to agree to follow and be responsible for all the employment policies and the employer. They have to be able to follow the school rules and the employer rules. Some places they might be required to have a drug screening or a criminal background check. They have to agree to that and be willing to do that if it's required by that employer. And then they have to, complete that written application to participate. Other program expectations, they can be reviewed on a per individual basis based on, that student's needs. It's not a general, this is, how it's going to be. It's on a need-by-need individual basis. Students with disabilities, they often excel with appropriate work-based learning activities. It's the importance of the coordinator, work-based learning coordinator. It's really viable that the coordinator works with the special education teacher to identify the students and develop that individualized training plan. It's that collaboration, working together, partnering together to, get a really good and appropriate fit for students and help them to be successful.
Yeah, and to add back to the program expectations being reviewed per individual basis, the reason why we want that, it's like we want to have an expectation and we want to have some guidelines that students are meeting, but sometimes I've seen where the work-based learning is the reason why a student is showing up. So we don't want to have the expectation so high that they're losing hope, because ultimately, if a student is at school, that's a good thing. And so we want to give them something that is positive and is connected to the rest of school, but also on the other sense, they're not being graded by the rest of school, by their job. So trying to find that happy medium of having an expectation, but also not punishing the student because of other activities in school.
Right. You don't want to take away the one place where they're being successful and they're feeling, starting to feel confident about themselves, because eventually it'll trickle into the other areas, and that's what we want. So that's why we put that in there.
So basically the rest of this webinar is now going to focus on what we call the continuum of work-based learning, because ultimately we want to start somewhere and end somewhere with the student, and kind of moving them through different ranks, or so to speak, within the work-based learning. So typically we start a student in 9th grade. Now, on another day we can talk about what can be done in 6th through 8th grade. But for today's focus, we're going to just talk about the high school. So in 9th grade, students are getting out of 8th grade, they're hitting high school, and there's going to be a whole kind of a different focus on what the next few years of their education is going to look like. So we ask special ed teachers, case managers, to invite us to their IEP meetings so we can just start discussing on what this could look like, because the work-based learning is individual and it's going to look different for each student, but in general, all students in 9th grade should be starting to focus on some career awareness and some career exploration activities, taking some aptitude and interest assessments to learn more about how they're wired and how that matches with different career paths. We want students to participate in some workplace tours, to go and see what a place of business looks like. We want to be able to bring in some class speakers to talk about, maybe bring an engineer in, what it's like to be an engineer, the type of schooling involved, how much they like their job, what they don't like about their job. We could have certain students visit their parents at work to see what they do. We want them to attend our mentoring day where they're getting to be able to pick some different some industry sectors to go and sit and hear about what the job entails, what type of education they need, what kind of pay is involved, and then if possible to have the students do at least 1 or 2 job shadows in an area that they're interested in and complete an informational interview where they're talking with one of the employees about their experience being in that career.
So in 10th grade, students participate in a transition course. Now we have the TREC curriculum, which is called Transition Related Employment Curriculum. It was designed and created by staff and teachers within our co-op and is actually on our website that you can download. And so so that's where we put that in as maybe a focus, but any type of curriculum that's helping transition, helping getting kids ready for employment and after high school. Taking that aptitude and interest assessment again, you're going to see some of these are going to be listed probably every grade. That is because things change. Our interests change from year to year as we grow and mature. So your interest might be different, let's say in 10th grade than 9th grade. So, doing another couple of job shadows, checking out your areas of interest. Maybe you're still interested in an area that you were in 9th grade, but we can expand on it. We don't always realize how many different components to a job, like culinary there is, different aspects and components of that job. So, maybe one year you're looking at, job shadowing at a restaurant, but the next time you're looking at, well, maybe catering or the bakery end of it. There's so many different components. Again, attending that College for Day we have set up is a great opportunity for kids to kind of go and pick a couple of courses and kind of see what going to college for a day is really like. Yeah. Without having, the support of, whether it be if they have paraprofessional support, teacher support, they are in there to try and see what it truly looks like. We also suggest and recommend having the mentoring day, again, as Nick described for 9th grade, just to give them more exposure to the different employers, the different opportunities that are out there that they might not be aware of. And if available, have an in-school job to kind of start working on those skills and kind of just just getting some of those initial soft skills and even some of those hard skills.
Yeah, and a couple other things that in those 9th and 10th grade and through senior is they should be also filling out job applications.
Yes.
Working on that, filling out a resume, writing a letter of interest. To not necessarily to a specific business, but being able to start working on those skills. Another thing that 10th graders really should be doing is that's when they should probably at the end of the year fill out their application for vocational rehabilitation.
Yes.
Because that is a program that will stay with them after high school. So we want them to start getting those supports that will exist after high school, because their IEP is going to be done the moment they walk out of the school. And there's very different expectations and accommodations that are going to be in the workplace than they are in the school. So 11th grade, still trying to do it, maybe another non-paid job at some different industry sectors, and ultimately what should be happening is 9th and 10th grade, things are going to be pretty general and pretty broad and really trying to cast out different trying to catch different things and not getting so specific. But as they're moving to 11th and 12th grade, we should be honing in a little bit more on a specific area that they want to head to, whether it's going to college, whether it's going into a trade, whether it's being an entrepreneur, whatever it is. I feel like one thing that we need to know is really like our job isn't necessarily to tell a student no. You can't do that. But to provide the opportunity to learn about what's entailed in that career and helping them decide whether that's going to be a good fit or not. So we have these kids that probably in 11th grade, 10th, 11th grade, you might have a kid that says, I want to be a rapper. And our job is to not tell them you can't be a rapper, but to be able to talk to them, okay, you want to be a rapper? Here are some things that are involved. For example, rappers write poetry. So we maybe need to look at, are you taking a literature class? Are you taking a composition class where you're working on writing poetry and then thinking about being an entrepreneur? So in these years, we should be opening up different opportunities for the kids that are relating to what they, in this moment in their life, what they want to do. This e-college is a great program where students are beginning a relationship with another person with a disability at a college. And Jessica Knudsen, our transition coordinator, has brought students through e-college, and she could give you a much better overview of what this is, but it's a fantastic program where students are understanding the expectations of going to college.
And they're mentored with a student that's already in college. I
Yep.
think it's like a 6-week course. There's curriculum with it, and then they get to talk back and forth with somebody that's, via email, that's someone that's at college, answering those questions and telling them, what it's kind of like and what to expect, that first year.
Yeah. Yeah, and really in this 11th grade year, as their non-paid jobs are winding up, ultimately we want them to get the tools to independently go out and get a paid job. Because, as they're growing up, we want to be able to pull back how much that we're not making everything happen for them. So in a perfect world, 11th grade, they're figuring out who they want, what they want to be, and their 12th grade, they're kind of driving the bus.
Right. And one thing before I kind of talk about the 12th grade is just I think it's important for students to kind of continue, taking those general ed courses, even some of those courses that might be, that they're struggling. If math is a struggle for them, don't stop taking math courses, kind of keep working on it. That's really important. And just because we've kind of laid out what's in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, if there's certain things that you feel are really important, like you feel that some of the things like, that was in 9th grade, whether it be, a certain field trip or, visit a parent at work, any of those kind of things, or speakers coming in, it's not just for 9th grade. You can do that at any time throughout your, the high school career. So I just thought it was important to kind of share that. Also for 12th grade, throughout, you're going to continue that career exploration through these, 9th through 12th year. You're now a senior. You're going to probably have identified some of that, what your career path is probably going to be, and hopefully we've worked have some work related to that career path. You're going to probably want to attend those colleges visits. The college visit to, there's a college you're interested in or you're planning going to attend that college, see how what the requirements are, and just kind of get yourself prepared for that next area. And hopefully your IP transition goals, they would also be specific to your career goal. They need to be specific to that student's career goal.
So our outcomes, ultimately once a student progresses through work-based learning continuum, he or she should meet the following outcomes based on the student's ability. One other thing that I want to go back is in those 11th and 12th grade years, really talking about career goals, helping kids to think about where do you want to be in 3 to 5 years, because it's so it takes a lot of maturing to start thinking life on more so than just this immediate thing that happens, but thinking about where do I want to be, where do I want to go,
and what are my long-term goals going to be?
Yeah. So, career awareness. So students should be able to, once they go through work-based learning, by the time they're their senior year, to be able to identify different careers and pathways and what they lead to in terms of different careers available within a certain industry sector. Describe different skills such as math and how they're used in the workplace, and be able to identify their strengths and their weaknesses. And I also think we should challenge students. Just because they struggle in something doesn't mean they can't get better at it.
Right.
And that they shouldn't follow those dreams. You know, I often believe that it's better for someone to try and to go for it than to always wonder what could have happened. What if I would have tried? And you know, and they should be able to articulate the importance of the different options of post-secondary education, and know the different paths, and be able to help them to decide what's the best fit for their goals and their vision for their life.
Career exploration. So students should be able to understand the skills that they're going to need and be ready for, if they're going to be going to college, or if they're going to go right out into the employment sector right away. Are they going to technical college? They should be able to understand what the skills they need and get themselves be kind of ready to head that way. They also should know what those skills are that they're going to need to be successful in the workplace. And some of that, is those soft skills. Or if you're going on to a four-year degree at a college, or even a technical college, wherever you go in the trades, you have and you know what those skills are that's going to be needed in order for you to be successful in that workplace. You need to understand how different elements of high school, your high school academics courses and your experiences, how they relate. So what you learned in the classroom, how that relates to the workplace. They'll be able to understand that. Have that basic knowledge of the employability skills, and be able to articulate or state these are the options that are available, and the importance of that post-secondary education, what you need to achieve your career goals. And then you want to be able to connect individual skills to the interests of your career. So you're going to be able to connect these skills to what and where you're heading on your career path.
And so all of the experiences for a work-based learning program is about career preparation. Students should be able to describe how the workplace functions and the skills required to succeed there. Because, there are certain skills that are going to be needed in every job that you find. But some places there's also going to be different things, and being able to identify the different roles and the different expectations at different workplaces. Identify the core knowledge necessary to be prepared for success in their particular career path. And really, when they walk out, being confident in filling out applications, knowing who their references are, having 3 solid references, and even having some different networks that they've already began building that social capital that we need to succeed in today's day and age. Having that network of people that are older than you, that believe in you and can speak well of you, having those different experiences, that ones that you succeeded at and ones that you failed at, because some of those experiences where you didn't meet the expectation, you learn just as much, if not more, about having an experience that didn't go well and being able to reflect on what didn't happen and what I need to learn to be successful in my next experience. And to be able to use multiple resources to find jobs. As I said, that networking part, because that up to 85% of the jobs that we get in our lives are going to be because of the relationships we have within our community and the connections we have with other people. But yeah, there are still that option to get a job just sending out applications, and that does happen. But having students to know how to communicate and search out jobs on the internet, in newspapers, and be on the forefront of what it is to seek out the careers that they want to have. Because as much as we want it to happen, no one gets the job for you. You need to do the legwork.
You have to be able to sell yourself.
You need to sell yourself.
And I think it's really important that, and I jumped in right in on you, but I thought it was really important that everyone has challenges or weaknesses and strengths. I think it's really important that you're able to sell yourself, sell yourself and say, these are my challenges or my weak areas, but this is how I overcome them, or this is what I do to, to deal with them and to be able to be successful. I think having kids be able to walk out and be able to talk about that and be able to, in an interview or in the resume say, this is what I do to succeed in this area that might be a weakness for me, is really important. And I just think that we need to kind of, remember that as well.
Yeah. I completely agree. And one point on here that develops short and long-term employment plans, I know that looking at my own life, I don't feel like I remember in high school having someone talking to me about, where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where do you want to be in 20 years? And having those conversations with kids about that, okay, if you go down this path, these are some of the pros and some of the cons. If you go down this path, these are some of the positives, these are some of the negatives. And having those honest conversations where we're helping students to make the decisions for themselves about who they are and what they want to be.
And I think that, you're saying that for where you want to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, a lot of times we're just asked, what do you want to do when you grow after high school?
Yeah.
What do you want to be when you grow up? But when you chunk it and break it down, it's not so overwhelming. When you think, okay, where do I want to be in 3 years? Where do I want to be in 5? It makes it, I think, a little bit easier for students to really think about it. It's not so overwhelming because you're chunking it and breaking it into steps for them.
Yeah.
So thank you for participating in our work-based learning webinar.
Thank you.